Hello! There are many ways to texture a build in Minecraft, like make it look like a painting for example, not like pixel art, more like this, like you can just fly in. And that is already one thing that will be important for us, perspective. Well, but first of all we should start in the beginning and have a closer look at the blocks that are available for us. To understand this texturing method we have to understand a few things. Creative mode is great for this as it allows us to see and use every block, as well as mods or plugins, as these can save a lot of time, perfect for messing around. Do you think of your blocks in groups like wood, stone, wool, glass, terracotta, concrete, miscellaneous or glass? Instead you could also group blocks by the color they have instead of what they are. So oak planks are just brown alongside some other woods, wool or concrete. The same goes for all the other blocks, so we have many colorful splashes along here. When building for example a wooden structure you most likely want to use wood which is brown. But other blocks are also brown, so you can use these as well, like brown terracotta or concrete. This is giving us way more possibilities to use different blocks and colors in ways we might not have thought about before. Don't forget you can also use blocks like beehives or jukeboxes. From close up blocks clearly have a texture, but from further away this texture blends into one color. This is already leaning into the perspective aspect, but from where you view your build you might choose different blocks. For close up look that the texture is not too messy or out of place, and for farther away look how the texture of the block changes into a color. For example, diamond ore looks awful from close for water, but from a distance it's great. For closer up or smaller builds you'd use blue Arceon wool for example. Doesn't mean you can't still mix in some diamond ore. When we add a bit of glass onto it, we can create new colors and hues we didn't have before. That is extremely useful as sometimes just one certain color is missing. We can add highlights and shadows or soften out shapes. Sometimes we don't want one color, sometimes we need a color with a light tint. Also, with glass blocks we can soften out gradients. Build your usual gradient first and then add a layer of glass blocks on top. Make sure to blend both layers into each other as you usually would. Another way to bring in tints of color are candles, fences, fence gates, glass panes and cobwebs. Again, from a distance they are barely noticeable, but they do make a difference. The glass panes work pretty much the same as glass blocks, except that they are thinner. Cobwebs are by the way the whitest block in Minecraft, so you can use it to add light reflections and highlights to your build. Again, from close all of this is quite noticeable, but when we move away, again it blends all together nicely. To be honest, most of this still looks decent from close up, so some of this might find a way into your regular Minecraft building. Perspective is important, also highlights and shadows. Is your build to be supposed to be viewed from every side, then you'd have to keep the shading down a bit. Viewable from only one side, then you don't have to bother to even build it back. Is your build rather small or big? The bigger you go, the easier it gets to add details. Try to find a building style you like. It is totally okay to look up real-life paintings and use them as reference in the sense of looking at how the artist painted alike and set up the composition. To try out all of this in an actual build, I have a nice tomato over here just waiting to get textured. First pick the colors, all different shades of red, some white, but then also blue, brown and purple. First I color the whole thing red, and I choose a red that is in the middle of light and dark. Then we will add highlights and shadows onto that, and to make it easier for you to understand, this blob of rock lights represents the light source. When you know a bit about painting, this will be a lot easier, but don't worry if not, it's not that hard. Our main view will be from the front, and as you can already see I added the light reflection on the tomato according from where the light source is and from this viewpoint. In the next step blend it in with the red. Then obviously the other side will be the shadow, so this is where we will be adding the brown, blue and purple. Looking at some paintings you can see blue is a great color for shadows. Purple works the same, though it is a bit warmer. Same goes for brown. Try to avoid black, instead you could also mix blue and brown, giving something close to black but with some hues. In every painting the light is coming from somewhere. So to make this really look like a painting we will do the same, but we also will be oversaturating these colors compared to real life. Think for a moment of how the surface of a tomato is like. It is so smooth that it is reflecting the light around it. The floor will later be blue, so the blue part makes even more sense. So I curve the shadow part along the tomato so that on the other side we also have a bit of red. This is supposed to look simple but detailed like this. In a painting you can often see each brushstroke when looking closely. To be honest, this build is only pretty from 3 sides, the fourth is a bit too blue, it's a perspective build. To blend these colors a bit better together, we will use a technique called dithering. Basically, this uses patterns to create an illusion of greater color depth. Without looking further into that, a chessboard pattern works well for this build. Some cobwebs do for the highlight of the highlight, and then, to blend everything together even more, I am using glass paints. Being translucent, you still see the block underneath, but it is softening out the chessboard pattern and is also adding a few more tints of color to the build. For the top part, some greens will do. I'd like to point out that the viewpoint is extremely important for this build. Of course you can view it from the other sides too, but then the reflection of the light wouldn't be accurate anymore. From here it would have to be there and so on. The reflection is moving with you. So from a different angle you'd have to do a completely different shading. Of course we will have to add our own shadow to the scene, so why not put it into a corner so that we can have our own background and floor, similar to here. To not use too many colors, I want it to be also more purple and blue. Just add splashes on the floor, from here they will blend in together. To get the length of the shadow right, back off from the tomato until you can't see the light source anymore. We don't want the shadow to be too long or short, don't we? To add more value, I am using different colors for the floor as well as for the shadow. The wall too gets some splashes of color, and the side of the light source will be a bit lighter. Add candles to add more subtle colors, and then I guess this first example is finished. Now that we understand the basics, let's build something bigger. I have a sunset with a rabbit in mind, basically something like this. So first of all, build the sky. The scene will be quite similar to this one with the boats, so we have a background and in front of that the rest. First of all, I outline the clouds and the sky using brushes with different blues and oranges. Then I go in and determine the shapes further by hand. This part takes some time as you want to make sure that everything looks good. Also you might notice that again compared to the reference image, these colors are very saturated. I highly recommend using reference images, but you don't have to copy them exactly. What would the fun in that be? And that takes the parts you like and create your own. When I am happy with this first layer, I add another one on top using glass blocks similar to here or on the tomato to tie everything together, but also to add more color. You can see all of this glass and candles do make a slight but awesome difference. The rabbit in the foreground is rather small and simple, and I don't want to talk too much about it. I feel like organics are a whole new topic. Important now is the color though. Looking at the reference image, we can see that simply making it black would work fine, but I'd like to add a bit more color. So the main color of the rabbit is grey with a hint of brown. The bottom is of course a lighter color. Imagine the light coming from behind, so I can outline the rabbit with brown and add some orange and white for the highlights and again blue for shadows. The rabbit can be viewed from all sides just like this bird, so imagine it as one build set into a scene. Looking at the clouds, the weather seems to be windy, so I will make the grass sway to one side. For the grass I create a patch of curved shapes and texture them so that the bottom is brown, the top green and the shadows purple. This one patch is just a small part, but because I don't want to build each one by hand, I went ahead and copied this patch all over. With a few extra ones it isn't even that noticeable. With that, the scene is finished. But let's play a bit more with perspective and place a frame in front so the whole thing looks like a painting. For the frame I add highlights at the top and bottom so that the light seems to come from above. The texturing is really simple though. And aligning our view, we see a picture of a rabbit in the sunset. See how the back part is way bigger than the frame? That is because it is farther away, and with being bigger it allows us to use way more detail. So in conclusion we could say, Most important are subject, the perspective, the color, the light and shadow. It might take a few tries to make this work, and certainly it is a creative mode thing. But what could you use all of this for? Maybe to impress your friends with a worky build, mess around with different blocks and perspective and have fun. There will be a second more practical part about texturing, but the base of this can apply to every build. I hope you enjoyed this video, and until the next time, goodbye!